Hey friends, you are crafting with Kim Byers at the Celebration Shop, and today we are going to use iron-on and wood blanks and make darling Easter signs. So this is going to be something that's really easy to do, and I'm going to take you into Cricut Design Space. I'm going to show you what it's all about. Then we're going to cut it and we're going to take it over to the craft table, and I'm going to show you how to apply iron-on to wood. Okay, so if you haven't already, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button and join me for all my future videos. So let's hop over to Cricut Design Space and get crafty. Okay, so here we are in Cricut Design Space, and I have pulled in some of the things that I want to work with today, and I just want you to know there is a lot of stuff in Cricut Design Space for Easter. So you can do sort of the fun hippity hop Easter bunny, or you can go the more religious route with, you know, He is risen, Easter blessings, that kind of thing. So there's a lot in there for you to pick from. And so my piece of wood is actually painted white on one side and it's wood grain on the other, but it's smooth enough that I could actually put a design on both sides. So what I wanted to do was to show you how you could pull in different images within Cricut Design Space. Just go into images and search, you know, whatever you want, Easter bunny, eggs, whatever the case may be, blessings, and there's all these different images. So if you like elements from more than one image, just go ahead and select them, click on them, and then insert them. So since I already have the ones we want to work with today, I'm not going to do that. But if we go back to our canvas, what I want you to see is that I took He is risen indeed and combined it with this wreath. And not only did I do that, I duplicated the wreath and then made the layer of this piece of the wreath colored. So I'm going to show you how to do that. And then I took elements from Easter Y'all, Hoppy Easter, to make another image basically. Oh, and then Easter was an entirely different piece as well. So this is actually three different images that I combined into one. So I want to show you how to do that so you can make your own thing without having to use Illustrator or something else. You can kind of, you know, pick and choose from the elements that you pull in. Okay, so let's look at He is risen indeed first. So what I did is I pulled in both of these images. And so for He is risen, all you really have to do is go over into the layers, and you can see here that it's already 3 different cuts. And so for those of you who have crafted with me before, we've talked a lot about the contour tool. If you click on something and it's, you know, it's multiple cuts, you need to then go into layers and click on one at a time for that contour tool to show up. Okay, so the reason it didn't show up on the cross is because there's nothing to contour. It's literally one cut. But if you go into these others, you see that the contour tool shows up, and that's because there's something there for you to contour. Okay, so what we want to do is we actually just want to turn some things off this time. So we're going to turn off the leaves, but then we're going to go over to the wreath. And so you see here it's a basic cut. It's just one cut. And so you see the contour tool is actually there. What I want to do is I want to keep the frame and the outline of the roses, and then I want to duplicate this wreath, okay? And so then we're going to go into the contour tool and we're going to hide most of it. What I want to do is I want to keep these little center pieces here and overlay that onto the outline. So what you could do is you could hide all contours, okay, and then just go back in and select the ones that you want. One of the things I really wish Cricut would do, Cricut if you're listening, is to make these different colors like green and red, like green for go and red for no or whatever, because they're just two-tone of gray and it's kind of hard to see what you're clicking on and picking. But basically what you want to do is you want to go through and click on each of those things that you want to keep. So since we've done that, I'm just going to exit out and I'm going to delete that. But just know that that's how I got these rose petals. So if you click on that, you can see over in the layers that the rose petals are by themselves. So they're a separate color. And then if we go down, the frame and the outline of the rose is by itself. Okay, so you can do that. So you can kind of make it your own. And then I just took He is risen and moved it into place and resized it so that it fit in the wreath. And then I used the color tools here to change them to. I have this aqua blue and kind of a pinkish and then a purple, and so I felt like those were all really pretty Easter colors, and so I just, you know, colored it accordingly. Okay, so let's go over to Hoppy Easter. So it's sort of the same process. So Hoppy Easter, and I thought that was cute, except I wanted this Easter with the cross attached to it. Now you could keep this Easter here and then just add the cross. Actually, I'll just show you how to do it that way. So I had already grouped that. I'm going to ungroup it. So then I can take Easter, close that one off, and just say we went down and we said, okay, we want to contour this. We want to take off Hoppy just because we've already done it up above. So I'm going to literally just take off this word, take off the ears. Okay, we want all of that hidden. You can click on it here, or you can go over into the side and get it there as well. Okay, so now I just have Easter all by itself. I could make that bigger, move it into place, and then I have a cross right here, and I could just hit duplicate and then bring it over. Cute, right? And so then I could just change my colors. Very cute, right? So we could use either one of those Easter words. We could kind of make our own, or we could use the original. And so I think that turned out really fun, right? So now my piece of wood is 11.5 inches around. And so what you want to do is you want to select your design. And what you're going to do is see here 9.9 and 8.3. So I may even make it just a little bit smaller. And I want all of this to fit. So when you click on all of the elements, you can see how big they are as a group. And so what I would want to do is then group those, because I don't want them to shift or move anymore. You don't want to hit attach, because if you attach, let me just show you, it turns everything, because it's attaching it to a mat. It's going to turn everything one color. Since we don't want to do that, what we really want to do is we want to group. So now these are grouped together, and I could just move them all around and everything's going to stay exactly where I put it. And then we can do the same thing for our Hoppy Easter. We can go up and group that. Now all of these other ones, I'm going to turn those off because we only want to send 2 things to Matt. Okay, so now we want to go up and check our machine. So we're going to be using the Maker, but you could easily make these projects with the Explore or the Joy. Now with the Joy, you're going to have to make it smaller because it's not going to cut this large, but you could make these projects. It will cut iron-on with both of those machines, or all 3 of those machines. Okay, so now we can select Make It. Okay, and so now we're on our mat, and we can see that we have all of our pink together, all of our blue together, and then all of our purple together. And what you can do at this point is you can shift things around. So like if you wanted to try to save material, which I love to save material, you could move things about and maximize that. So we'll just kind of tuck. You're going to hand place these anyway, so you can kind of tuck all those things in. And so now you're going to be able to cut off a little bit here, and then you're only going to be using about 4 inches above. And you could get really detailed with it, like if you wanted to try to, you know, pop those guys in there, turn them on their side. I love to save material because I love to craft so much. I don't want to waste anything. So now we're going to be able to save 3 inches, right? Okay, so now that we have all of that together for the pink, and then we could go through and do it for each one of these, just remember that this is iron-on. So you want to mirror your design. And I should have told you, before you move and shift everything around on the mat, you should mirror first, because sometimes it wants to move, just like that. Okay, so then I'm just going to have to rotate my cross just a little bit more and move him up. Okay, so now all of these items are going to cut, so you're going to want to do that for each of your mats. Okay, so now it's asking us to set our base material. So what we're using today is everyday iron-on, so we're going to select that. And this is just our fine point blade, so everything is ready, and now we can go over to the craft table and put our first material on the mat. Okay, here we are on the craft table, and these are the things that we're going to use today. So I have 3 different colors of iron-on. I have my clear ruler, I have my EasyPress, an EasyPress mat, I have my weeding tools, and then I have a piece of wood that I purchased that was already painted on one side and not on the other. Now this actually came from the Target dollar spot, so it was like $3. The thing is if you buy a blank and you paint it, just make sure that you wait 3 days or so for that paint to fully dry, because if you don't and then you apply heat to it, it could bubble, and so you're going to ruin your entire project. So if you buy a piece and you want, a piece like this and you want to paint it, then 3 days. If you purchase it and it's already painted, fantastic. But either case, if you're using your EasyPress on painted wood, I would use parchment paper just to protect your machine. And we're also going to need a green mat and our cutting machine. So we're going to be using a Cricut Maker today, but you could use the Joy and you also could use the Explorer Air 2. Okay, so let's move everything out of the way and set up our first mat. So we're going to start with pink, and just make sure that you line your material up at your corner and along the top edge, and then you can use your tool to just make sure you get all the bubbles out and get it down perfectly, and then we're going to take this over to the machine. Okay, so we just load the mat, placing it under the feeds, and then we select cut. Okay, so our first cut, and what we want to do is we want to bend the mat, not the material, to get it off. So it'll sort of pop up on the edges. There we go, and we can kind of roll it off. And then we'll be able to weed this out. So once I have this off the mat, we'll go ahead and do that same process, the cutting with the purple and the blue, and then we'll come back and weed them all out together. So now that we've cut out everything, and now I'm weeding out all of our colors, you just use your weeding tool and pull at the corners, pulling away. A lot of this you're going to be able to do by hand, or at least pulling off the big stuff by hand. So just clean them all out. Make sure that you go back in and check between letters and things like that to make sure that you have all the little details before you iron them on. And so there are our little Easter eggs. Now with everything weeded out, we just want to separate our design. So we had multiple design elements on this one color. So just cut through the liner and separate those. And depending on where you're putting them, you may want to trim closer around. So these are our little bunny ears. And then we can take out our cross. And then we have our roses. So now we have our wood and we have our EasyPress mat. I'm going to take the parchment paper and lay it on top of our wood. The heat guide for Cricut says 5 seconds to preheat the wood. Whenever we do our iron-on design, we'll be at 300 for 40 seconds. Okay, so we preheated our wood. Now what I want to do is I want to take my clear ruler and I want to make sure that I'm getting my first element in the right place. So I am roughly about 1.25 inches on both sides, and so that's going to be about perfect. Okay, and so then I'm going to put down Hoppy, just rub it down with my hands, and by preheating this, it's kind of helping that to stick even better. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the parchment paper back on top just to protect my machine, and then we're going to set it on top, and it says for firm pressure, and we're going to go for 40 seconds. Okay, so now I'm going to put my EasyPress back on its set, and we're going to take the parchment paper off, and I'm going to allow this to cool. And so once this cools, I'm going to peel it off. Now, I could have done more than one color at one time, but I just didn't want to have any problems with overlapping of the liner, because if you overlap liners, and you're like, well, the words aren't overlapping, but the liners are, sometimes they can peel away the element that you want. So once this cools a little bit, then I'm going to put on Easter and the other elements, and we'll do all those at one time. Okay, so it's cool. Then we'll just go over to the side and pull this up. And if it doesn't, let's see. Slowly at an angle. Okay, so there we go. So that last liner is off and it's cool to the touch. It turned out super cute. Maybe we'll even put a little ribbon or something up at the top. So let's go ahead and flip it over. And now we're gonna do our second design. Now the second one, I ended up changing my colors because when I unraveled the blue, it actually didn't have enough on it to do the outline. So I chose white, and I think it's gonna be really beautiful. So what I'm gonna do is, this is actually glitter. And when you look at the Cricut heat guide, it is the same as it is for the everyday. So it's still 300 degrees and 40 seconds. And the wood is a little warm still because of all that we did on the back. So I don't think I really need to preheat it. But what I want to do is go ahead and put down my base design, which is my glitter. And I want to make sure that my circle is in the center. And it's going to be a little offset, right, because we have all of the flowers. We want to make sure we have about the same distance on the top and bottom. So now what we want to do is just hold that in place and go ahead and put our parchment paper on top of it. And then use our EasyPress. Okay, so now it's done. We'll move that out of the way. Take off our parchment. And now we're going to want to allow this to cool all the way. Okay, so now that the glitter has cooled, we just want to pull it at an angle. We want to pull that in. Oh, wow. Okay, so that's going to happen sometimes. So it started to bubble up right there, or kind of pull off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to snip this liner here and here, and we're going to do it one more time. Let's put the protectant on. Okay, and so now we can pull away and everything is in place. Great. And so the next thing we need to do is we're actually going to layer these roses on top of this. And I didn't cut, like I cut them out perfectly, you know, on the mat, so I don't have to hand place them. But you do want to be careful that you can see the white outline. So just take your time. Put everything where it should be. And then once you get some of them going in the right place, the rest should line up perfectly, since it was all from the same cut. And you can use heat-resistant tape to tape this down if you need to, and I think I am going to use that just to make sure that my flowers don't shift by the time I put my parchment paper on and then use my EasyPress. Okay, so I went ahead and put my purple elements down as well, and I used heat-resistant tape to make sure that these don't shift. Now, with my purple, just make sure that you don't get it on top of this liner or any, you know, pattern that you're doing. Just make sure that you slip it underneath if you've got multiple liners. I have accidentally ironed onto a liner before, and my heart was broke because I had to redo the whole thing. Okay, so now we're ready for our parchment paper again. And one more time with the EasyPress. Okay, so I've removed the EasyPress and it's super hot, but I am just going to gently use my scraping tool to make sure that all of the materials are down, especially in my roses. This is laying inside of the outline. And I just want to make sure that it's touching the wood and that all that heat is truly getting to the design, especially here too. My cross went over the glitter just a little bit. Okay. Okay, so I've taken off all the protective layers and everything turned out really, really pretty. I love how it came out, and actually I'm glad I changed this to the white glitter. It really pops even more than the blue would have. So now we have the design on this side, flip it over, and we have Hoppy Easter on the other. Okay, so what did you think? So that was really fun and easy, right? So I hope that you will hop out there and get some blanks, some wood blanks from your favorite craft store. And I've actually put some in the description below. I put some links to some things so that you could hop down and check those out. And I hope you'll use your HTV or your iron-on to apply some really fun Easter designs or any kind of design to your wood. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I want to help you have a fun time crafting, and I want you to understand your machine and just enjoy the whole process. It's supposed to be stress-free and fun, right? And I hope that you'll hit that subscribe button and join me for all my future videos. All right, see you guys next time.